Thanks everyone for joining today. Looks like we've got really good numbers. I'm about to break the 100 mark, which is great because I think it's going to be a really interesting and useful session. Before we kick off, I'd like to start with a brief acknowledgement of country. In the spirit of reconciliation, I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land from where I am today in Brunswick, in Melbourne, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and acknowledge their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respect to the elders past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. So thank you. So as you will have seen, today's session is the first in a series focused on the use of technology to support our work. We've obviously all been forced over the last 18 months to rely on Zoom, Teams, other platforms as the main means of communicating with each other, staff, clients, partners, and so forth. I guess most of us have probably been surprised at just how effective we've been able to be under these circumstances. Being able to keep large parts of our programs going, even bringing benefits in our ability to communicate and bring people together. And certainly a lot less time spent on planes. But also it's brought a lot of challenges in terms of, the richness we get from speaking face to face with people, keeping people engaged through Zoom calls, managing Zoom fatigue, building virtual relationships, and so on. So we probably should have been doing these sessions 12 months ago, but I know many of you are still dealing with these challenges on your projects on a day-to-day basis, and I think that we all expect that this increased use of technology is going to be part of the status quo going forward. So still a good time to reflect on how we can keep using these tools more effectively. So today we'll hear from our ASEAN-ACT team, who are a regular contributor to our project sharing sessions. So thank you, team. So as a regional program, I know they've been thinking about these issues for a long time, well before COVID. And I guess as you'll see from today's presentation, they've really managed to combine, a sophisticated use of different tools and apps with some really practical guidance to make sure that virtual meetings and workshops run really smoothly and are really productive. So hopefully we can all learn a few tips and tricks today that we can apply back to our own work. So with that intro, I'll hand over to Lucia, team leader for the ASEAN-ACT team, who will introduce her team and their presentation, and we'll keep some time for Q&A at the end. So thanks, Lucia, over to you.
Thank you, Mark. Good morning, everyone, or afternoon, depending on where you are. It's great to see you. We're actually going to start straight away with a video. Thanks, Vikanya.
Hello, thank you for joining us today. We would like to make this virtual event a pleasing and productive experience. To make this happen, the organizers request all participants to observe the following house rules. Display your full name and office. Unless recognized to speak, please mute your microphone. If your bandwidth permits, you may leave your video on at all times. In this way, we are able to maintain a sense of participation from everyone. Please click the raise hand button should you have questions, or wish to address this virtual event. Wait for the chair or facilitator to recognize you before speaking. You may use the chat box when you want to provide inputs or comments. For documentation purposes, this event will be recorded. Lastly, as we are in a virtual environment, we will be kind to one another in case of internet connection issues. We will expect unavoidable technical difficulties. Feel free to join back if you are disconnected. Everyone's patience will be greatly appreciated. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. So that voice you'll actually hear again, that's one of our staff members, Archemides Siguan, who probably should have been a newsreader or a TV presenter, but he's lucky, we're lucky actually, that he's our ASEAN Director of Programs. So today we wanted to present on how you choreograph a really good virtual facilitate a really good virtual workshop or event. And I have to start by apologising on behalf of our Deputy Team Leader, Aaron Rosada, who is going to lead this presentation and has actually done a lot of work in pulling it together. So I'm just standing in to introduce the team, but I'll largely hand over to my team to present today. I think any of you that know me know that it's quite ironic that I am speaking about ICT because I have a technology age of approximately 95. But in many ways, I am a good example of someone who has come kicking and screaming to this recent tech revolution. And I can testify that the platforms that ASEAN-ACT have used are accessible and intuitive. And so I've actually come to this style of virtual facilitation and come to found it really effective as well. So just briefly, I'll introduce my team. We are a truly regional team and we're dialing in from a range of locations today. So we have Kem, who's Archemides Siguan, our ASEAN Regional Program Director, dialing in from Manila. We have Han, our Vietnam Country Manager, who's dialing in from Hanoi. We have Darlene Pajarito, who is dialing in from Zamboanga City in the southern Philippines. We have Rowena, our Comms and Knowledge Management Director, dialing in from the Gold Coast. And Vicky, our Ops Manager, and I are dialing in from Bangkok. Next slide, thank you. So just very briefly to introduce the situation we were in pre-COVID. So we're a program Australia's been investing in for 17 years that largely relied on face-to-face training events and building relationships in the sides of corridors, over hotel breakfasts, over lots and lots of informal engagement between police, cooperation, between building relationships with judges, that eventually led up to informal relationships that really influenced trafficking in persons cases. So we were heavily reliant on a very traditional modality of training and capacity building. We operate across 5 countries in 7 languages and we have 8 work plans to deliver every year. So in many ways, the program had to make a very rapid shift when COVID hit because we couldn't rely on those old modalities of face-to-face training. But luckily, at the start of this program, Cardno, with the support of DFAT, had made the investment and decision in a couple of technology platforms to start to connect the program even pre-COVID. So we were already using Microsoft Teams as an office to communicate across the region and across boundaries. And we started to use Zoom, but I think it's fair to say that we hadn't fully optimised all the functions of Zoom pre-COVID. So very quickly, like everybody, our senior management became spread across the region. They were previously all based in Bangkok in an office. So we have our senior leadership team spread across Australia, Indonesia, the Philippines and Thailand. So essentially COVID catalysed what was already a pretty good system. And I think it's fair to say our team were in a good position by virtue of being a regional program to fully take up the virtual way of operating, but our counterparts were not. And so throughout this presentation today, we'd like to share with you not only how we built the tech capability and comfort with technology within our team, but also how we brought our government counterparts and stakeholders along through that journey and the sorts of practical tips and tools that we used to do that. So next slide, please. And I think we're going to hand over to Vicky.
Thank you, Lucia. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon in some locations. So our blueprints So it starts from plan, prepare, and support. So ASEAN-ACT, we have facilitation plan prepared in very detail. So the meeting also support like both virtual and hybrid version. So where all the participants join online, or sometimes we also have hybrid where some participants join in venue. So the hybrid version also has, because some of the ASEAN-ACT team cannot travel to be in the in-venue version, so we have to combine. For those who join online, can also have presentations as if they are actually in place, and that has participant engagement as well. So we have detailed facilitation plan that lists down who's doing what and go through each sessions in detail, including administration on who will share the slides, translations, interpreters, and everything in place. And then prepare on the meeting day. We also have prep meetings. Sorry, not on a meeting day, before the meeting day. So we have prep meetings and also the test run with presenters, counterparts, translators, interpreters as well. And we also have pre-recorded remarks and videos for those speakers or DFAT who cannot join on the meeting day. So the test run also allow us to go through facilitation plans in very detail. And if we have any questions or concerns, we can raise that during the prep sessions as well. On the support, so we have team collaboration, facilitation plan that we have work document online where all the team member can access to the document facilitation plan online live. If we have any edition any change in facilitation plan, the team is can go and see in the facilitation plan. We also have live group chat. So where we have all the team members, ASEAN-ACT team members in the group chat. So for example, if participants ask questions in a group chat, if participants ask questions in a Zoom chat, for example, and it's in local language, so we can ask the country team to help translate their questions and put back in the put it back in the box as well. So we also have in-house translation. And also debrief meeting after the event. And also we upload all the presentations and also the video online in our ASEAN-ACT portal after the event. So some of the in-house translation that's also include how to pronounce counterparts' name as well. That's very important when we pronounce their name correctly. There are some challenges, of course, when we have to conduct event online or virtually or hybrid, such as internet connectivity, as is different in each country. Some location might have good internet and some might not. This also include a power outage as well in some location. So we have to keep, so for example, counterparts, they don't have good internet connection. We also offer them pocket Wi-Fi so they can access and join online meeting effectively. We also have limited technical capacity in some locations as well. Translations languages also another challenges as we have 7 languages. So we have to mindful of technical translations. So in our online meetings, we also enable translation function on Zoom. So that allows, for example, if I'm talking in Thai, we have interpreter, and the interpreter can translate simultaneously. So those who cannot understand Thai can choose English language from their Zoom translation function, and they can listen the translation in English simultaneously. But that also comes with challenges, as sometimes the quality of the interpreter, or if speaker speaks too fast, or if the internet of the interpreter drop off. Also, cultural consideration as well. As for the cultural consideration, we have to consider, for example, if we have to play national anthem before the event starts, or prayer before commencement, or if even if we have to put royal images on Zoom background. So another challenge is disengaged participants, because sometimes when they work online, they might be distracted by either their engagement, or they are not fully participate as if they are in the venue, where they are just focused on what's happening in the actual venue. Last one is death by PowerPoint. So visual storytelling is crucial to audience engagement as well. So we try to make our PowerPoint presentation interesting. Thank you. And can I hand over to Ken, please, on this slide?
Thank you so much, Vicky. Can I please confirm I can be heard?
Yes, Ken.
Okay, very good. Thank you. What sometimes comes to mind when thinking about our training or workshops and now webinars are the challenging things that may happen. So we approach facilitation as an adult engagement opportunity. All of our participants are adult, of course. And for most adults, they come into an event with an expectation that needs to be met. For us, it would be the objectives of the meeting or a workshop or of our webinar. So it's important to understand how different people react differently as an adult. And the theories and techniques in dealing with adult engagement have been around since the time of the guilds and apprenticeships in medieval Europe and elsewhere. So I'd say that most of what we in ASEAN-ACT do are applications of the many theories that have come before. So these are not really new inventions. In successfully facilitating our workshops, events online, what we would usually do is to know our audience, really know our audience, to have meaningful experiences with them. For instance, I would identify the honorifics of the different countries where we would be engaging with. Excellencies in Cambodia, we would say sir and ma'am in the Philippines, or pak or ibo in Indonesia, kun in Thailand, and puan in Malaysia, so that our audience know that they are important to us, and that when we engage with them meaningfully and respectfully, they also get to respect our event, and we are able to successfully facilitate these events. Knowing the audience also means identifying the allies in the room. So for me, I would identify one person, one important person in the room, most especially the senior persons. And when we make them our allies, that means that all other people in the room are also your allies, and that they follow the leader. Me following the leader would also mean that the other participants will be following their leader. But we have to manage these senior people successfully. Sometimes it would mean that they would monopolize the discussions. So in successfully facilitating these discussions with different senior people, I would usually call other non-senior people to participate, to give their reaction, to say something, or just to say hi and hello. It is also important to personally engage with our audience. Sometimes I would recall when we had our last beer, what they were in the first day of the meeting, the names of their pets, or any members of their family, and the last time that they attended one of our ASEAN-ACT events. It's really important for them to know that they are important, not only as our participants, but as friends and allies to counter trafficking in the region. So it's also one of the many key things that we have to keep in mind and to successfully facilitate is to have the objectives in mind.
Vicky said that we have a really detailed facilitation plan, and we are serious, dead serious about the facilitation plan. Some facilitation plans have 90, 100, 120 points that we follow to the letter. Some of our different team members cannot go on facilitating an event, a virtual event, or a webinar, for instance, Darlene here, would collapse without a facilitation plan. So what I also do is to master my language, master the topic that I'm going to talk about, the points of discussion. Sometimes in sheets like these, I write down the different vocabularies that I'm going to use and the important words that I need, the keywords that I need to talk about, because I don't want to miss any important principle or any important theory or any important counter-trafficking law, an article that my participants should know about and that we need to talk about. So we aim to avoid plainness. One thing that we don't want to do is just to deliver a workshop, a virtual event, just for the sake of delivering. That's why we apply to be creative. In the different virtual events that we have, we use different apps. We can use Kahoot as for your quizzes, Slido for quizzes, online polls, live polling, event analytics, audience Q&A. You could also use, we sometimes use Mentimeter also for polls and sometimes for quizzes, Jamboard to replace the usual Flipboard, Prezi for that creative presentations so that we avoid death by PowerPoint. I also use Discovery Education to create word puzzles. So what does this really mean for us is that we aim to have meaningful engagement with our participants. The theories on adult learning and engagement have been around since the 1900s. Theorists like Malcolm Knowles and andragogy, transformative learning, perhaps self-directed learning, and then learning by doing have all been around in the 1970s or even earlier. So we apply these different learning theories in our online events and workshops and trainings. But it also helps that I am a licensed teacher in the Philippines. So I have background in adult education and such. So I've also wanted to say here that maybe you want to start with a bang and do not end with a whimper. Certainly, starting with a bang can mean many different things, and you can do many different things. For instance, in this presentation, we started with a video, an epic video, without even saying a word. So you capture immediately the attention of your audience, and adults have a short attention span, which we need to recognize. We also need to master what we do and what you can do with the four corners of your monitor and the different functionalities of Zoom, of Teams, and the different applications. We can use the chat box. We ask them if they do not wish to speak, encourage them to use the chat box. If they do not want to use the chat box, encourage them to use the emoticon or the emoji icons. For instance, now, may I please ask you to give me a round of applause, please, in your Teams application. Can you do that now, please? Press around. There you go. So it makes me feel better. It makes the other participants better whenever you're attending these online events. And I just made you do that. And it's really participative and you are engaged. Now, in the next slide, Vicky, please. So one of the latest challenges that we did to ourselves was when we did in the Philippines a few days ago, the problem-driven iterative approach, or PDIA, with our team in the Philippines. And we gave our team a crash course on PDIA. And then we used the technology like the one that you see here. I think this is the Jamboard. So be able to analyze the different stakeholders in the counter-trafficking arena in the Philippines. In using this, our participants went into a link and then they went into this interface so they could use some sticky notes, or they could even draw or type their answers or the responses and insights into the Jamboard. And sometimes in Zoom also, we ask them, like we did now, to use the different emojis, give us some reactions in addition to the chat box. Next slide, Vicky, please. And here we are showing you how to use Kahoot. For instance, in one of the trainings that we did with the ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights, we did a quiz. They go into a site and then they enter the quiz number, and then they're able to participate using their mobile phones. It can be challenging sometimes with the internet connectivity issues in the different countries. And in our ASEAN events, they are mostly, our participants come from all 10 ASEAN member states. And there are challenges with language. So we have interpreters, the interpretation function we use in Zoom. But sometimes on all of these problems, we cannot solve together. We just have to accept, and as we said in the earlier video, that we need to be kind to ourselves and to our participants. But all of these tools, the app in Kahoot, making quizzes, the Mentimeter also for your polls, and Prezi for an interactive presentation, would really engage all the participants into achieving what you want to achieve, the objectives that you want in a particular online event. So we say it is facilitation. It's not really teaching or lecturing. You only facilitate the event, the learning of your adult learners. If it is a training or a workshop, you can even facilitate even if you do not know a thing about a particular point of discussion, because you are not expected to know everything, but you should know how to facilitate from point one, number one of in the agenda, to 4 or 5, and to the end, to the last point of the agenda. So one key thing really is that meaningful engagement, I have said before. And finally, in the last slide, Vicky, at the end of the day, we want our participants to really feel valued. And we also want to learn from the different online events that we do. So we provide them with a link, again, for them to provide us their feedback. And our mail team analyzes the feedback that our participants give us. And then we sit down together in debriefing sessions that Vicky talked about, and then improve the next event, even if we think that we did really well. And I pass on to the next speaker, which would be Darlene, I think.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Cam. And I think that's a good segue to my topic, which is more specific. Next slide, please. So it's about managing presenters. I still see the slide measuring success. Is that what is on the screen, or it's just me?
It is now managing presenters.
Oh, sorry. I actually don't see. Don't know why. All right. Sorry. Vicky, it doesn't show on the screen, but anyway. So for managing presenters, there are several scenarios, and I'd like to present with you a few scenarios. And the first one is, sorry. Vicky, can you move the slide for a while, just so maybe the slides from my end? Yes, there you go. I see it. All right. So first, we have the presenter can get into the virtual room, which sometimes it actually happen. Or if they get into the virtual room, they get logged out immediately. So what we do in that case, we usually resend the link via all means, whether or what the person is convenient with. It could be WhatsApp, Viber, or email. And we do all of those simultaneously just to help, just in case the presenter has some trouble with the link and also in getting in. Now, we are, and always when we have several presenters, we have a maximum in our webinar with a maximum of 4 presenters at one time. So we are ready to present the second presenter, and we will always advise the second presenter just to be ready in case the first presenter is not able to jump in. And also because they're already aware of the sequence, and since they know that the prior speaker couldn't get in, they are almost always ready to present. And then of course, once that the first presenter was able to get in, we would then revert back to her or him after the second presenter has or is done presenting. Now, another situation is when the presenter presents beyond the time limit, but there is still room for extension sometimes because sometimes we give room, for example, not only in webinars, but in other workshops where there is a time for Q&A. So since there's room for extension, we just allow the person to speak, but we may send a kind reminder in the chat box again, or WhatsApp, or in the Viber, informing the person that her or his time is already up. And then, of course, sometimes we have a presenter where there is another representative in the room face-to-face with that presenter. So we also coordinate with that presenter to help in reminding the presenter that it's already an overtime. Now, on the second scenario, still on when presenter presents beyond the time limit, but this time you do not have room for extension, or if you do, it's very minimal. Now, in this case, it's really hard to just cut in, butt in and say, hey, your time is up, and we move on to the next presenter. So we still allow the person to continue, but we would watch out for a pause somewhere, or if you think that it's already towards the end of the sentence, and then we could quickly jump in to say, thank you very much for your presentation, and that we appreciate all the sharing that you have made. So in that sense, in that case, we do not actually tell them, oh, you're overtime, so we have to cut you, and we still have other presenters. We usually don't do that. We just say thank you, and we move on to the next presenter. And I think I've attended some sessions where the facilitator would actually do that, would actually cut him or her in the middle of the presentation and said, your time is up. And I feel bad for the presenter because in situations like this, it's where you're only given like 10 minutes or 15 minutes to speak. There's still a lot to cover, although they want to put it within the 10 minutes. But sometimes there are a lot of good discussion there that we allow them to speak, but we politely interrupt when we see an opportunity that would not, throw him off his discussion or her discussion. So that's the scenario for this. Now, the next slide would show another scenario where the presenter, the first presenter, let's say presenter A, disappears in the middle of the presentation due to a bad or weak bandwidth. And it actually happened already. And the presenter would immediately tell us that she or he is moving to another location just to get a good connection, bandwidth or internet connection. And so we immediately proceed to the next presenter B, and would just inform the audience that we'll revert back to presenter A once he or she is able to get back into the room. But of course, we will allow presenter B to finish his or her presentation and go back to where presenter A left off. Okay, now in some situations, we would resort to asking for a pre-recording, especially when we are already aware that this person coming from this area has some difficulty or internet connection interruptions. So we would request for a pre-recording presentation, but would still require the person, or as much as possible, to be present and to give it live, unless that the presenter would just opt to for us to just use the pre-recording. But the presenter is still in the room and to answer the Q&A or during open discussion. It is not always a must, but always a good option to have a pre-recorded presentation of your presenter. And then, of course, sometimes the presenter would say, I will be sharing my slides from my end, but we would always request them to send the slides or any video together with the slides, so that just in case, and it did happen the presenter is not able to share the slides. So, and if the presenter would share the video, it has no sound. So immediately, as hosts or organizers, we would share the slide or we would play the video, and it does not interrupt the presentation. So that is for some scenarios. There might be other scenarios which you have encountered. And just a last note here, we conduct pre-meetings with presenters to anticipate these scenarios, and of course to minimize glitches. And in most cases, they really appreciate these pre-meetings. Sometimes they would even request for a second pre-meeting, just if they have some other issues that they have encountered. And we are always welcome to have more than one pre-meetings. So, but of course, as mentioned by Archemides, if you have a good facilitation plan and discuss that with your presenters, that would really help to have a smooth workshop or webinar. So that ends my presentation. I'll give now the floor to the next presenter, Ms. Han from Vietnam.
Thank you, Darlene. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. How do you feel about Darlene's presentation? Please show your emojis for us to know that you are following us. Yeah, thank you very much. So yeah, we all know that counterpart participation is very important and critical in any event. We would like to share with you some practical experience, how we manage and support their participation during the event. So before the event, we make sure that we have the right participant in the event so that they are interested in what topic or the theme that we are organizing, and also to learn the name, their titles, and the organization. So in order to, we can invite them to share experience, to share their knowledge, and also to share their idea in a specific or suitable session. For example, I can invite our colleague Vicky to share about finance. I can invite Darlene to share about the legal framework or something like that. And we also make sure that the participation know how to use all these online platforms, because some will be familiar with Zoom, some will be familiar with Teams. So we make sure that we provide the instruction like the video that you saw at the beginning. And from the organizers, we also prepare some small gifts, such as chocolate, or write some funny sentence so that we can read out during the relaxing moment. We also have a stock of mini game or exercise that we can play in the moment we call while we wait or during the short break. So at the beginning of the event, we again provide the instruction to all participants to know how to use the online platform, how to provide comment or ideas in the chat box or live group chat, or how to use the emoji to show their reflection, and also to assign the staff to monitor the chat box so that we can follow up with any comment or inquiry or question from the participant to the speakers or to the trainer. And throughout the event, the moderator, the facilitator, play a very important role in maintaining the very positive mood of the room or of the event. And if the moderator shows their energies and positive attitude, then participants will feel the positive environment in the event or during the event. And we also because people participate online, so interaction is limited compared to the in-person event. So we try to keep and maintain communication through the chat box, through the live group chat, so that we can follow up with any question posed by the participant to show that we really care for what they ask. And whenever they pose any question, we respond immediately that we got the comment, we got the question, and then we can send this question to the speakers or to the trainer so that they can respond later. And sometimes we check if they are still present or still in attendance by asking them to put a specific number or describe their feeling in the chat box. For example, if you are here in the event, can you type number 1? Or can you show the emojis like or heart or clap so that they still follow the conversation which is going on. And we also have a clip of sound applause to play after each presentation, just to keep the participant more energetic, and also to ask the participant to show their sign of emoji to show they're thankful to the speaker or to the trainer after each presentation. Between the session, because people can maintain their attention or concentration only about 15 to 20 minutes. So after each session, about 45 minutes to 1 hour, we will have a short 5-minute break. During this break, we can play some melody or have mini game or do some exercise so that they can stress out. Or we also use this opportunity to give some small gift for the participant to encourage their participation throughout the event. And we will not let no longer than 5 minutes for the participant to wait without providing their tasks for discussion, for group exercise, or introduction about the next activities. And we can immediately explain if there's any technical issues or connection so that they are aware what happened during the event, because sometimes they cannot see the organizers or the speakers. So that's the experience from our team, and we would like to share with you. And if you have any question, we can come back to you later after the presentation. Thank you for your attention, and can you show me your heart that you still follow our presentation? Thank you. Back to my colleague, Vicky.
Thank you very much, Han. So for our online events, we also hosted with Zoom, as it also have many add-in application or also within Zoom application already. So for example, our webinar events, we also use other platform like Eventbrite, which integrate Zoom, where participants can register their attendance. And then I'm going to, as we are running out of time, so here we also we can also ask participants or even presenters to choose virtual background, so we can have the same background. ASEAN-ACT also have a standard template of background and also tailored background based on like each event, as if we have backdrop in the event. Also, we brand our Zoom background with our counterparts logo as well to demonstrate collaboration. On Zoom, we can create polls here and also enable translation functions. I'm going to go through slides quickly. So this one is actually our actual event that we have. So we have host, co-host, and here we can choose and assign translation. So we can assign interpreters. And also we will have to see that we have all interpreters unmute so they can translate, and also we have to check if the translations are working well. So here I'm going through each channel. So you can hear different languages. So while we are doing it, like co-host and host, they have many multiple tasks doing at the same time, ensure the audios are clear, and mute, unmute any accidentally unmute buttons from anyone. So that's just an example. We also have multiple hosts just in case if anyone drop off, and do recording as well in the events. So we also use Zoom and do reaction. As you can see, the hearts pop up. That's coming from participants showing their reactions. We can also use whiteboard as well. And this one showing pre-recording video because our DFAT cannot attend the meeting online on that day. When we are doing pre-record, we also have subtitle here. And also we have to monitor chat box. We have very fully participate our attendees. Our chat box is very live, and yeah, many comments coming in. The team has to monitor chat box, and again, if there's any message in local language, we send to team for translation. We also have timer where we keep track of time during health break or during lunchtime. So that's the countdown timer. So everyone is across when the sessions back resume. We also have breakout room. So here is how is to show how we have breakout room. And then once we can also set when the breakout room is closed, have countdown. And once we open the room, participants will be automatically in their breakout rooms. We can also pre-assign breakout rooms for events that we have many participants join. Here we also do spotlighting. As you can see, we have so many screens, but if you want participants, attendees to focus on any speakers, we can spotlight them. And again, as mentioned earlier, we have to monitor Q&A box. So this one is from our webinar. So moderators, speakers, and also the country team also monitors Q&A box and also respond live. And after the event, we also uploading in our portal on website where they can watch back on YouTube, and presentations uploaded. They can see previous events from the same portal as well. Over to you, Lucia, for the next slide, please.
Thank you so much, Vicky and team. Just to wrap up very briefly to allow enough time for questions, as you can see, there is actually a lot of choreography and planning that goes into a successful online event. And we have invested as a program our time and resources in building up our technological capability, as well as our facilitation skills and honing those so that they're particularly tailored to online events. So just to sum up, make sure your engagement is meaningful, try to be as creative as possible. We use local local expertise. We use a lot of government counterpart speakers and a lot of ASEAN speakers, and of course the local members of our team as well to present. Try to streamline your tech platform. So Zoom is our primary platform, and we build on other technology onto that when it makes sense to do so. Make sure you measure success. So our debrief is compulsory after every engagement that we do. Even if we're all really tired and exhausted, we always get together to reflect on how things went. Provide audience incentives. So we always do participation events and certificates after our training, and we actually have ceremonies where we present those online. If you've got lots of participants, you can just select one person from each country as a representative for all of those countries. And finally, follow-up engagement is really important through our website and our portal, and making sure that any questions that are asked in the chat do get answered at another time if there's not enough time during the actual event. So I'll leave it there and open it up for questions. We have a lot of members of our team here beyond those that just presented that have a lot of experience in online facilitation also. Back to you, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you, ACT team. That was really wonderful. Yeah, really impressive. So many great ideas and thoughts. I always come away from an ACT presentation feeling very self-conscious about my lack of IT skills and general preparation. And I'm also a little bit upset, Lucia, that now your IT skills are better than mine. But I'm sure there'll be lots of questions based on the overwhelming amount of information just presented. So please feel free to put your hand up, and I will come to you for questions. I think Ashna, you are first off the rank.
Hi team, well done, great presentation. I just have a question. Kem, you touched on getting feedback from participants. Can you give some examples of how to encourage getting feedback? Because we've got, I mean, when we've run these sessions on other programs, we really struggle with that. And, you know, we send follow-up emails and do that sort of thing, but we really don't get much of a response at all. So just wondering how you go about that.
Thanks,
Thank you
Ash.
so much.
It's a really good question. Oh, Kem, did you want to jump in?
No, it's okay. Go ahead, Lucia.
No, really. You are
yes.
the master.
Well, you're not alone, Lucia. I mean, you're not alone, Ashna, in thinking that sometimes it's really difficult to get feedback, and our mail team is sad whenever we get less than 50% feedback from our participants. So what we do is to tie the feedback to our certificates. Say if you'll be provided with certificates if you give us your feedback, and sometimes we post the feedback link multiple times during the event. At the start, at the middle of the event, and of course at the end of the event. And then we take a specific time at the end of the event to say that we'll take 5 minutes before we end the event. And then please take a look at your chat box. There's the feedback link. Let's take 5, and then we'll be expecting you to go there and then provide us with your feedback and then submit it. And then at the end, maybe 5 to 10 minutes. And then when you're done with it, please come back to the plenary and we'll finish and do the closing ceremonies. Lucia, if you want to add something.
No, I think you've summed it up. Just to add that it's important to give time to people to do it during the event, and don't expect them to do it in their own time, because they won't.
Lucia, if I may add.
Please, Darlene.
Yes, thank you. And also to add to what Kem has mentioned, in our webinars, that's also an issue. We only have around, I think, less than 50% who from the feedback. So we tied it up to the certificate. And also, before we start the next webinar, we actually present a one-page feedback from the previous webinar, just to make them feel that we value their comments or feedbacks, and that we respond to it accordingly to improve our webinar. So we present a one-pager at the beginning of our ongoing webinar, and then we would mention that if they want a certificate, to fill out the link, and we post as early as that in the beginning, the link to the feedback. And then in the middle, we also post in the chat box without mentioning on it live, but we continuously post the link, and then towards the end, as Kem has mentioned. Thank you. Thank you, Lucia.
And finally, Lucia, we email the link to our participants if they do not provide us a feedback during the event itself. we send them an email and say, hello, give us your feedback, please.
And as a result, actually, it increased the percentage that of the feedback that we got. It was more than 50% when we did this. So, thank you.
Okay. I assume you only give them certificates if they give you good feedback as well, right? No. Okay. A good question from Angela in the chat, just about tips for managing hybrid presentations. You did mention, you know, the sort of running virtual and hybrid. Yeah, how do you do that successfully? Is it easier, harder? Any challenges?
Han, would you like to take this one? Because we've done a lot of hybrid events in Vietnam.
Yes, thank you for your question. Actually, it's more challenging to manage the hybrid event with both participant attendant in person and also online participation. So we have assigned the staff in charge of facilitating in the room, and also assign another staff to be in charge of supporting the online participants. So we have clear role of who is doing what during the event, and of course we need a lot of preparation. And as Kem mentioned, we need to have very concrete facilitation plan at the beginning, and everyone knows about their role. And yeah, so for online participation, we need to monitor the chat box or the live group chat carefully to make sure that we do not miss any comments or ideas or questions from the participant, and make sure that we respond to them immediately or whenever suitable. And for participants at the, who attend in person, we also have some kind of follow up with them right in the room, and also similarly. And sometimes with the hybrid participation, we have different exercise for the group in person and also for the group online. So if we have the group in person to do an exercise, we can have a mini game exercise for the online group. Yeah, so that's it. I'm not sure if Kem want to add anything to that.
Sure, Han, thank you. What Han usually does is to have two facilitators, one online facilitator and one in-person facilitator. Say if I am invited or Darlene is invited to Han's events, hybrid events, we facilitate online, but there is a specific person who is going to facilitate on site. It will be sort of the assistant of the main facilitator who is joining in online, and specific roles for that in-person facilitator. So it's important also to talk about what the main facilitator online will be doing so that he can be assisted properly in the on-site facilitator that Han, for instance, in the team is going to do. Thank you, Han.
Thank you. I'm conscious we're just running up against time. Maybe just as a last quick question, there's a question from Toby just about how to run polls on Zoom. Is anyone able to explain that quickly?
Vicky, would you like to explain that?
Lucia, you don't want to take that one?
No, thanks, Mark. I might delegate. Thanks, Vicky.
Yes, so host, Zoom host can also pre-upload Zoom question and also choice options prior to the meeting. It's have to be uploaded through browser. And then during the meeting, you just launch the poll from the control tab. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I'm conscious we're coming up against time and people will all start dropping off to go to other meetings. So just something I've learned today about getting a bit more audience participation when running these sessions. So maybe a big round of virtual applause for the ASEAN-ACT team. So Darlene, Han, Kem, Vicky, Lucia, thank you so much. It was a wonderful presentation. And just a quick plug for next week's presentation. It will be next Thursday, presentation from the Prospera team about running large-scale virtual events. I will send out an invitation for that after this meeting today. So hope to see as many of you there at that session as possible. So thanks again for attending, and thanks so much to the ACT team. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank you.
you, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.